Well, thanks for joining me today in the shop. We've just completed this kitchen cabinet for the van we're building for Bev. And the difference between before and after is massive. The big difference in this cabinet is the storage capacity. The earlier cabinet, as you can see, basically had no storage. It had one little slot here to store her single burner propane stove, but all underneath this cabinet was a lot of wasted space, but a gray water tank, 5 gallons, and a 5-gallon water, fresh water. We made a few changes to the design, and this is what we've ended up with. We've got numerous drawers for cutlery, food, anything that we want in here. One of these drawers is going to be dedicated to electronics. We're going to put 2 USB ports in here so you'll be able to charge all of your personal electronics. We've also got under sink storage with a self-closing door. We did some flushed panels here to line up with all the drawers, radius the edges, and we're also going to inset some 110 and USB outlets on this one panel here from the inverter. So let's get started building this thing. Well, after endless thought working on this cabinet, I think we've come up with an awesome solution for Bev's van. We've increased the functionality and the usefulness and the storage capacity of this tenfold over what we had in the last versions. One of the key requirements for this was to add more storage. And we've added all the drawers that we showed you in the last episode. We've added under counter storage here. We're going to have a door on the front. She's reduced the size of the gray water tank down to just 1.5 gallons, and we've moved the water out of here. So this was completely full last time, which is water tanks. Now it's almost wide open. So the next part of the problem was, how do we get this thing plumbed and connected with electricity and water from everything that's now in the bed platform? So it was kind of a lucky decision to build this cabinet separate, because it enabled me to decide where to put it in here and to open up a gap right here on the side as a kind of a plumbing chase. And let me turn this around and show you. So we now have all the utilities coming from the bed platform over on the side over there, and we have room to come through this side of the cabinet, put a 90, and then bring everything to the back of the cabinet. I've left 5 inches here between the drawers and the back of the cabinet that we're going to be able to do a lot of things with. So I'll bring the water in. I've got a fresh water fill that's 1.25 inch line. I've got 2 3/4 inch lines for the vent and the water supply that goes to the water pump and then to the sink. And then I've got several battery cables going back and forth between there. I think the alternator, the electrical supply from the alternator on the engine, there's a hole in the floor of the van right down here that we're going to use, and I'll be able to bring the power into the DC to DC charger. Then I've got power coming back this way to run a fuse panel in this cabinet. So all the water pumps, and yes, there's 2 water pumps, I'll get to that in a minute. The water pumps, the lighting, the USB, everything in this cabinet is going to have a separate fuse block. I like to be able to just make one connection between here and the main battery. I don't like to have multiple circuits running back to some point that I can't access. So we'll bring a larger cable into here, we'll have a fuse block, and then all the electrical will just be wired right here. That also makes it possible for me to do all the work here and then go put this in the van. So I mentioned that this was built earlier as a separate assembly, and the next thing that does for me is it's screwed into place now, and I'm going to leave it that way. So to wire all this plumbing and everything, we're going to have some 90-degree fittings, and things are going to be a little tight and a little fiddly. All I have to do is unscrew this. This is wide open. I can get to everything. I'm not having to get into really tight spaces that I can't reach and try to do a hose clamp or something. This just comes out. When we're done, put it back in, put in the screws, done. And if there's ever a plumbing leak in the future, same thing, just take it right out. So that's going to be great. So like I said, there's going to be a false back right here, and we'll have one water pump that's going to feed the kitchen sink. One of the requirements that we were really trying to solve is how do we get a shower in this vehicle? It's not a big van, and you weren't obviously going to have a stand-up shower in the van. So we came up with the idea of using hot water from a solar shower. You've seen the bags, the black bags that you fill up and put out on the picnic table. An hour later you can take a hot shower. I was a little uncomfortable with using that water and running it back through the water pump that we use for our fresh water that we cook and drink with. Those bags don't get cleaned out as much. I'm not saying they're bad, but when you put them away in the van to store them, there's going to be a little moisture in there, and who knows. You could also end up, if you're in the mountains in Colorado, you can just go fill the thing up with creek water and heat it up. So there's a separate water pump for the shower system. So instead of taking the little hose off the faucet that she has, we're going to take a little RV shower and place it right here in this area. It'll have handheld with a shower head, roughly what she has now, but it's going to be run off a separate pump. So you'll open these back doors, hang the solar shower bag right here. Now you got hot water, flip the switch, take a shower, then hang it all back up easy. And I think that's going to be great. We'll also mount the fuse panel back here for all the electrical that's here, so it's easy to get to. If something's not working, you pop the fuse, just open the side door, figure it out, and go on about your way. So this has worked out really good. The advantages are for me, my problem is I spend so much time thinking about it. It doesn't take that long for me to build it. I probably thought about this last night for 3 hours, but then in another hour and a half, I had it all cut out, built, and screwed together, and I went home. So good progress. We're going to do a little more bracing to this cabinet, get it all sanded up, and that's what we're working on today. Well, I'm glad you tuned in for today's episode. It's good to get the cabinet done. It's a major hurdle for the schedule to get this thing finished up. Stick with us in another episode or so. We're going to be getting this entire van wired with a big DC to DC charger, a 3,000 watt inverter, and a 200 amp hour lithium battery. We're also going to have the installed 10-gallon water tank and the freshwater pumps. So be sure to subscribe and like the videos if possible. If you have any questions about the detail of how these are constructed, if you want some close-up pictures or anything else, you can also reach me on Instagram or on my email, and I'll have that listed in the description. So thanks for sticking with the channel. If this is your first view, go back and check the other videos on how we got to today. So thanks a lot.